Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. And welcome to today's conversation with myself, Sara Jane, with my co-host, Enolia.
Hello.
And with our very special guest, Caroline Carr.
Hello. Lovely to be
here. And our topic today is the power of positivity. Caroline, this was your choice. We love to give our guests the choice of a topic.
Please don't ask me why.
Oh, okay. If you don't want me to ask you why, I will come in with something. Seriously, do you want me to ask you why?
It's fine. I thought you might.
That was great.
I can change the question.
It's perfectly fine. Shall I tell you why? It's because being positive it's the key to everything. I think everything is energy, vibrational energy. And we know that energy is drawn to similar energy and it draws from similar energy. So if you're in a negative place and you're generally downbeat and kind of and everything's awful, you're going to get more of that energy, and it's a heavy, dense energy. If you can shift that to being a more positive energy, which we know is lighter, it kind of opens the doors for you. It offers opportunities and you feel better, and it just makes a difference. But the thing is, often we don't realize that we're in that kind of place, because especially if we're working, in an environment with lots of other people, we kind of get affected by other people's stuff, and other people complaining are kind of drawn to that very often as well. So it's just really important to be intentionally positive. And that doesn't mean being all whoopee-doo and upbeat all the time. It's a much gentler energy than that. It's looking for the positive in situations. At the same time, being negativity, that there is a reason for that. We can often learn a lot from our negative experiences, which is why we have them. But it's just about knowing the difference.
Yeah. So, brilliant. Do you want to pass a comment, Enolia?
I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, when you are positive, we play all these different roles. And that positivity seeps through those roles, right? So we have to be the mother, the daughter, the auntie. We have to be the employer, the employee. We have all these roles to play. And a lot of times, if we are going up and down a roller coaster of emotions and we embrace that as what it is at the core of our being, we're not happy people. But the beauty about the positivity is that no matter what role you play, no matter what you're doing, if you bring joy to it, it's not work. The relationship is not work. The work is not work. The being is not work. Because when you're miserable, it's hard being yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a beautiful way of putting it, I think.
Yeah. So the positivity, I know for me, has to be my fundamental core of being. Positivity, love, joy, then to me, that signals that I'm coming from my heart and not my head.
Yes.
Because my head always has criteria, problems, issues, justifications, boundaries, limitations, worries, concerns, all of it. So I really, really love what you said.
And I think if I can just add on to what you've said as well, we are programmed to be negative, I think. I mean, it is the negativity bias, isn't it? That is this ancient programming from when we were hunters and gatherers, always on the alert, looking out in case we're going to get eaten or killed or something like that. Though we may still have that, we don't need it to that extent now. But unless we're aware of that and aware of the fact that even when things are going smoothly and really well, we can very quickly find ourselves in that slump because it's our default position.
Yes.
If we are aware of that, then we can do something to change it. And then we touch base with ourselves again and we're off, aren't we?
Recently, I saw a post, and it was actually somebody, I can't remember the exact words. In fact, it made me cross. But it was about saying all these people that keep preaching about positivity, you know, sort of, and they can do so much damage by constantly talking about positivity. And it made me quite cross.
Yeah.
It really did, because I thought, but you're not understanding what is meant by being positive. And I think that's the important thing here, is about understanding what the majority of us mean. And so I have calmed down from that, and I thought, actually, this is perfect for the program. It's not something that I shared because I really felt that somebody missed the point. But on the other hand, I also accept and understand that it was very important for somebody like me to see it, to be able to do what I did. But then helping me to really understand. But there are those people who aren't necessarily understanding what we are truly meaning by the power of positivity. Because it is totally important for us to have the experiences that we have. And they may have those aspects of feeling negative, hurt, upset, angry. But it's good to feel that. Because how can we know the positive if we don't have a sense of the negative? So it is important for us to be able to think about it and think, okay, fine, right, that made me angry. Calm down. Think about it. What was that actually about? What did that strike a chord in me? And actually, how can I share better from the understanding of that? So I think you were commenting, within every negative, there is actually a positive. And it's supporting us to find that. I'm going to shut up now. Carry on.
Well, it's just... No, it's interesting. I think, though, as well, it's not just about what we're thinking. It's really to do with how we feel and the physicality, you know, the physical effect of actually feeling positive or negative. And when we can kind of get into that place a bit more, it helps us to almost take a step back. So, for example, you know what, if you're feeling really anxious and you get those sort of butterflies in your tummy and that tension, it is possible when you're used to that, when you know what you're doing, to flip that to the butterflies of anticipation and excitement, you know, to do something with all that tension, to release it. So, of course, we're always going to have negative experiences. And yes, we need to think what they're about. But perhaps not too... I don't know, maybe I'm talking nonsense here, actually, thinking about it.
I don't think you are. And I'm going to come from a place because none of us have really, has anyone really defined positivity, right? Mm-hmm. We understand it in opposition of each other, positive, negative, but defining positivity. And so if I sit here and I define positivity, for me, it's a state of bliss. I enjoy being in a state of bliss, of harmony, if I could use those words to define what positivity is. Now, when you talk about negativity, right, I think about the opposites in this regard. That when I am wanting, if something wants to get my attention and wants to interrupt my state of bliss, of where I'm in harmony, then they're going to do something to interject, to interrupt that state of bliss. Okay. And then for me, I would call that the opposite, which is negative, because I'm already in my state of bliss. If you bring more bliss to me, I'm just going to be where I'm at. There's no reason for me to change.
Yes.
So when people want to interrupt, interject, get a different state of reaction, they come in with that opposition to move you. But I'll tell you, I can go days, weeks, months being in a state of bliss and not necessarily needing to embrace anything negative to get me to move forward or to get me to react a certain way or whatever the case it is, because I just enjoy being where I'm at. Yes. Now, it doesn't mean that negativity doesn't have its purpose or need, because if you're stuck, what else is going to get your attention except something negative?
Yeah.
Right? And when something negative gets your attention, it gets you to leap. You want to go back to bliss, right? So you leap forward. You go, okay, you got my attention. This is negative happening. I don't like negative. What do I need to leap forward? How do I get back to bliss? How do I get back to that harmony that I was at? So negativity has its purpose to help us wake up out of maybe our state of bliss so that we can get to a further state of bliss. Because I want to be there. I want to stay there. So I don't know. I just throw that one out.
Well, yes, I agree. I mean, it's being, to me, positivity is being aligned with who you really are and who you were meant to be in the first place. The person who feels free and joyful and, well, carefree as much as anything else. But then stuff happens in life. And so and I would say it's the oomph energy, because I talk about finding your oomph. And so that's where I think positivity is. But stuff happens in life which kind of blocks that energy again and again and again, if we let it. But if we don't know that that's what we're doing, we don't know. So I think that, Enolia, your point about, wanting to get back to that state of bliss. Yes, I think deep inside, that's what everybody wants. The thing is, sometimes some people don't know that that's what they want because they can't see beyond where they are sometimes.
Or they've never experienced
exactly, yes,
what positivity is, because you might assume positivity is the suffering that you're going through all the time.
Yeah.
And that you've never known the niceties or the simplicities of what being in a state of bliss or being in that positive way is. And that's true for some people's lives.
Yes, absolutely.
Some people are stuck in that poor me, that victim mode. And it is helping them and supporting them to be able to move through it. It's not round it, under it, over it, it's through it. There is another way of being. You talked about the fact that we're very much almost raised in that negative. Well, as my sister once said to me, there are 6,000 words in the dictionary that have a negative connotation, and only 2,000 or less than 2,000 that have a positive connotation. So yes, we are absolutely brought up with and if anybody asks you what you want to do or certain things, it's, well, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. But we're find it very difficult to say what you would like to do, what you would like to be, what you would like to experience. We're very good at giving the answer of what we don't want to do. We're very good at giving a negative type answer.
You're so right. Because I was doing that earlier today, and my dear, dear friend corrected me. She's like, stop telling me what you don't want. Will you please tell me what you want?
But we all need to be We all need to be reminded, don't we? We have to be reminded, because we forget. I mean, one of the greatest things is the shifting of but to and. Simple, isn't it? And I'm always suggesting to people that they do that, that I want to go out for a walk today, but it's raining, so I can't. You could shift it to, I want to go out for a walk today, and it's raining, so I'll just get an umbrella and my boots and go out. Yes, I know that in theory. Can I do it, though? most of the time, I can, and it's like all these things, you kind of need somebody to pick you up and remind you of these things quite often, because they are, I think our language, it's ingrained into us, and I think particularly in the English language, that we're very good at the negative words. A lot of the words are.
Oh my goodness, we're what's the word? We're expert at it.
Yeah.
I mean, none of us would be at work if there wasn't so much of it. I mean, why do we coach? Why do we do everything? Because people are drowning in it.
Yeah.
They're drowning in it.
It's true.
And then as the holder of being able to coach and being able to work through the wellness services, we're the ones that are basically saying, I'm going to hold on to this positivity and I'm going to share it some kind of way. And I'm going to get you to see some kind of light. You know?
Absolutely. And when it's all fresh and you've just kind of got it and somebody's helped you to see that and you found your own truth and it's all wonderful, it's great for a little while. Comes back again. Which is so annoying, but it's that's the negativity bias again, isn't it? So
we've got a comment, and I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, so I'm really sorry. Maiki? I don't know, but I apologise.
I know Micah. Hello, Micah.
Oh, Micah. Okay. I think that concept of positive and negative words in the dictionary is interesting, but I wonder whether that varies from language to language, as you commented, I think, Enolia, without necessarily having a negative emotional perspective in different cultural contexts. So,
I've traveled around the world. Negative is negative. I am sorry. I am in Angola, and I just finished doing a workshop here in Angola, right, on how to define success in your life. And I had a translator translate for me. And we talked about coming from the heart instead of the head. We talked about loving self. We talked about all of these things that are our foundation, your self-worth, the value, the beauty of life, trusting yourself, all of the things that make up that positive person that you are, valuing self. And they felt that it was the most phenomenal workshop ever because these things aren't even discussed. You don't even talk about these type of things here in this country. What? Inner work? No. That's very private. You don't do it culturally. If you go around the world and you look at the roles men and women play and how much it's predefined for you, you talk about the simple freedoms. Remember that a lot of the things that we take for granted don't exist in many cultures. And that people are still trying to break through that framework today. So yes, it exists, in my opinion. I'll say in my opinion. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but in my travels, people are starving for that positivity and that glimmer of hope, love, light, self-worth, value, being valued, and being able to embrace and even share the love that they have in their heart, because they're not always afforded that opportunity to. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on a tangent.
I just wondered though, Micah, if you actually meant the language, in how the language changes, the actual use of the words. I'm not quite sure, because I think what Enolia was saying is so wonderful, but I do wonder if you also meant the words themselves and how that changes, the meaning changes from place to place.
It's true. The meaning does change too, and there's a lot of words that we say here that aren't represented in other languages.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, but the world, it all kind of looks a lot alike right now.
Yes. Yeah.
So that feeling, that oppressive feeling, that it's there. It's just there.
I think the one thing to me that has just screams almost is, and it suggests that it's in every culture, is that we are not taught, and we're not made aware of the fact about loving yourself, honoring yourself, respecting yourself. There's nothing about self other than that negative word selfish, which has been is so wrongly used in many cases. It really is, and I know I said that before, but it is about, we can grow into a much more positive way of being when we are more comfortable in our own skin with who we are. And that the comments that are made when people say, oh, I like myself, I love myself, it's just like, oh, you are a selfish being, you don't think about anybody else. Actually, when we are truly in love with ourselves, we bring so much more to others. If you're in that selfish love of self, it's got to be about me. But real love is never about me. But we are considerate of ourselves, and we are including ourselves in everything that we do. And we do learn to say yes when it feels right, and no when something doesn't feel right to us.
Selfness instead of selfish, perhaps. It's a shame it's got such a negative connotation, the word selfish, because it is so important, isn't it? You have to look after yourself, because if you don't, everything else falls to pieces around you. All the people you're trying to help, you can't give them your attention. You know, you can't be as effective. You can do a lot of good things, but then eventually you go under and you just kind of collapse, wham, and that's it.
So I would love to pose this question to each of us to answer. I'll answer last since I get to pose the question. Okay. So for our studio audience who might be watching this, and that question would be, if you're in a dark place, how do you find that positivity? While you're in that dark place, how do you find it? And I pose this because I know that in my coaching, people are finding themselves in dark places that they never thought that they'd be. And I would love for each of us to give our perspective, because it's so needed right now. It really, really is. So I'll throw that out there first for anyone who wants to answer.
Yes. Sara Jane, do you want to go first?
Okay. Truthfully, I don't know how I did it when I found myself in that dark place. Because when it happened, I suppose because I started, I was already on that journey of finding who I was and being accepting of me and not worrying about what other people thought, that when I found myself doing a spiral down, it was actually, and it was thought, hang on a minute, where do I think I'm going? Oh, no, I am not going there. And because I'd already come out of such a nearly 4 decades worth of negativity and insecurity, that when that dip came in, because I was already really much more out of that and much more getting very close to the person I am today, it was, hang on a minute, that's not happening. And so it was a 3-day spell, but boy, did I spiral downwards. But I was able to do that because I'd already had that poor me, that victim mode for so many years. And the wake-up call had brought me out of that. I didn't need a wake-up call other than actually that feeling that was in me, that I was spiraling downwards and I wasn't having any of it. So I had that inner strength to be able to do that.
You were in a place.
I'm finding that inner strength.
But it sounds like, and I should say, it sounds like you were in a place that you could recognise that, and that you were able to say, no, enough's enough. But I know that many people are in such a dark space in themselves, and when you are in such a dark space, you can't access anything. You can't access thoughts, feelings, anything, because you just feel so awful. And I mean, I have a client who experiences depression a lot, and she says, when I am in that place, and she knows all the techniques and the tricks and things that we've shared and she's been through and everything, she knows these things, but she says, look, when I'm in this place, it goes out of the window. I just can't get there. But I know that I can get there again as it starts to lift. So I would say, and what I always say to people is, you just have to kind of trust that it's going to work for you. There are techniques, there are lots of things that it's possible to do. And even if you don't believe them, just do them anyway and know that your subconscious, because what you do with your subconscious mind, every time you do anything that's positive, anything that's going to help you, you send a message to your subconscious that you're taking ownership and you're taking responsibility, and that you are actually being proactive in some way. So anything that you do that's going to help, it's feeding the subconscious all the time, which means that it's going to then eventually create an environment where more of that comes about for you, more of the kind of the positive, pleasant anger. But with something like depression, very often you need more than just your thoughts and feelings, because it may be a chemical imbalance. It can be all sorts of reasons why people become stressed and in a down place. And I have a friend who, smiling is a really useful tool, because as soon as you smile, the muscles start to engage chemicals in the brain, and it means that the endorphins are raised and the stress hormones go down. And I said to this client, well, just she's mildly depressed at the time. And I said, well, how about just try and walk around with a smile on your face for, a minute or two at a time. And the thing is, with a smile, it doesn't matter, even if you don't feel like it, and you just do it like that, and you think, oh, I hate everybody, and it's all awful. It's still having an effect. And to stay like that for a minute or 2 minutes is actually really hard work. It gives you face ache. So I thought, when I said to her, I thought, she's not going to do it. There's no way she's going to do it. And I've just mentioned it. Anyway, a few weeks later, she spoke to me and said, how are you feeling? She said, I'm all right. She said, that smiling thing you told me to do. She said, well, I didn't think it would work, but I did actually walk around the house and smile at like intermittent periods. And she said, it really worked. I felt a lot better. So these tiny little things that we can do for ourselves, it's just about knowing that we can do them. And I also think, which people have said to me as well, that it's all very well doing them in the moment and doing them when you're okay and everything. But of course, the other thing with depression is that you forget what they are. So it's important to have them kind of handy in a very accessible form, so that as you're coming out of that, you can just look at them on paper for you, something so that it's there as a reminder, and that's, the book that I've written that's coming out eventually, which has been greatly delayed, but that's exactly what that is. It's a series of techniques to help people who have been through all this, but who actually need the reminder. Which is why it's been hard to write, because normally I just do them with people. Get up and we'll do this, that, and the other thing. But you try putting that on paper, it's a different matter in a way that's accessible. But I do think there are many things, and it's just if you can trust that they're going to work for you. then do them, because your subconscious doesn't know the difference between real and pretend. So whatever you tell it, it's just going to do it when you tell it something else.
So I would totally agree with it. And the first thing that I would suggest, most of the time when we're feeling bad and we don't recognize, well, recognize your surroundings. Are you staying indoors too much? Are you finding that you just want to be in a dark space? Or are you finding that you just want to be indoors? And right there is a sign, get outside. I am a firm believer, for my own self at least, that when I find myself, feeling down, not feeling myself, feeling depressed, the first thing I do is I go outside, take a walk, grab a blanket, find some patch of grass somewhere, lay out on the grass, walk barefoot, find a space where you can walk barefoot. Mother Earth is like a battery charger. And believe it or not, you cannot lay on the earth and come back with the same mindset. Something happens with the energy between the earth and us. It's like Mother Earth is a battery. Water, cleansing water, ocean water, so good for you. Clear water, lake water, splash, play, enjoy, but engage in whether it's water, it's earth, or a nice walk on a windy day. Get some fresh air, get the vitamin D, get the sunshine. The first, just engage the body. Engage, and I think about it in terms of body, mind, and spirit. And once you engage the body, if you're a person that exercises, and I know a lot of people go, oh, I don't like to exercise or anything. If you don't walk or anything, go to breath. And believe it or not, we breathe shallowly. So the body is accustomed to this state of being. It's depressed, it's not feeling good, and it's breathing shallowly like it normally does. We'll go to breath and take that really deep inhale in and out, because what happens is that if you focus on breath and you focus on taking those long, deep breaths, guess what? You engage the mind, and the mind has to focus on what the body is actually doing. And if the mind is focusing on what the body is actually doing, it doesn't have time to think about the spiraling story that's been created in your brain that you're dwelling on. If you don't want to take deep breaths, believe it or not, hyperventilate. Guess what? If you breathed out of a bag, you still have to focus. You still have to figure it out. You still have to count. How long am I going to do this? How long are you going to do this to my body? The brain has to engage in those particular things. So to me, the first thing is address the physical. And then when you address the physical, and you release a little bit of the tension. Here's another thing about hyperventilating, is that you can't stay angry when you're hyperventilating. No. You cannot stay angry. The body is so focused on the fact that you're breathing that it releases it forces the release of the tension that's being held and expressed in your body. And then once that's released, you're still in a different state of mind in which you can transition into doing something else. So I look at those particular pieces, find someone that you can engage talking to. Talk to someone, express how you're feeling, release it verbally, let it go verbally. Find someone, and then set the rules of engagement. I don't want your opinion. I just want to talk. I just want to get it out. Because sometimes if we state it out loud, then we release it, and that release. And sometimes we don't want opinions. Sometimes we don't want to engage in a conversation. We don't want someone to fix it for us. We just want to express that sentiment. And those things are things that are right at our fingertips that we can do. And I say that because so many things are happening and triggering us and getting us to spiral, or offending us, or catching us off guard in our times right now. And we need these tips, and we need these tricks that you've expressed, that I'm sharing, that you can share to others, to let them know that we can release this. We don't have to hold it in. And then the number one thing I love, your smile, the smiling piece. Not only is the smile a stress reliever, but smile is the smile is the universal language, no matter who you're engaging with, wherever you are in the world. You know, many people have asked me, oh, my goodness, you've, you know, worked with so many different cultures. You know, how do you do it? How do you get to engage these people? Why would they talk to you? Guess the first thing that they see on my face, it's that smile.
Yes, yes. And of course, laughter, which is the continuation of the smile. Because, like I say, with the breathing, you can't be angry when you're concentrating on your breathing. You can't be angry when you're laughing.
No.
You don't have to have any reason to laugh at all. You can just laugh, which is what laughter yoga is all about. So you can make up the exercises and things, and it has so many benefits, laughing. And physically, mentally, it helps with a sense of connection, and it's a great release as well for people.
Yes.
The thing is that a lot of the time people feel a bit of a twit laughing for no reason, not laughing at jokes and things like that. So I think, you know, if you are feeling fed up, I always say to people, just start giggling quietly to yourself. It just means like, then you have a smile. Nobody needs to hear it, but you're doing it and you're getting the action going, because again, it starts to release endorphins, lowers the cortisol, oxygenates you and everything. And then soon it'll grow into a proper laugh if you want it to. But along with that, you take it, and this is what laughter yoga is about. You're laughing, but then you intersperse it with a good deep breath as well. So you are going to get that oxygen. You know, because the laughter sounds get rid of air. Anything which is it's getting rid of air so that you can take in a deep breath. It's miraculous. So I think everything, everybody's saying wonderful. Hey, we should rule the world, girls. I mean, we're all coming up with these wonderful. No, but it's true, isn't it? All these little things that you can do. And this is why this is the power of positivity, isn't it? It's knowing these things, and it's knowing why it's important to actually, even if you're in a really bad place, to just trust that you can make a tiny effort to do something, and it is going to work towards lifting you. And when you know that, just knowing it is powerful. And when you start to take action on that, you really are empowering yourself.
Micah shared some other comments. And Micah, what I'd like to ask you to do is, because your final comment was, never doubted that negativity exists. None of us do. That was not the point I was raising, but hey ho. So can you try and reword your point for us, please, so that we can comment and we can feed back to you? And I'll try and keep an eye as to where you actually put that answer, because the reason I didn't see these immediately is because they put in the Q&A, whereas the original bit was put in the chat. So if you could come back to us, please try and explain what you're talking about. But I'd also like to comment on the laughter thing. I've done sound shares here, so working with sound energy. And when we sort of sometimes do sound baths for each other, and sometimes people just suddenly burst out laughing. And I say to them, that is fine. I mean, we had a big group here of 16 odd people, and we did it in the garden. We had a fire out in the garden, and we actually did it outside by the firelight. It was brilliant. It really was. But there was a couple of the groups, because we split people into fours, so that people could each receive a little sound bath. And a couple of the groups, they just creased up laughing. And as I've said, every time I've done this, don't worry. If you start laughing, just go with it. It is a sound that is missing from our lives.
Mm.
It is missing from so many lives on a daily basis.
It really is. Yes.
The laughter is something that we should have on a daily basis. Oh, right. I think my point has been covered. Thank you. Okay. I hope so, because I'd hate to think we haven't covered your point. So laughter is I love it. But I think also the music and the sounds that we listen to. You were talking earlier about getting out into nature, which is something I do on a daily basis. I have got local woodland, and walking through the woods this afternoon, oh boy, were the rooks being stressed by something. There was so much noise. And then walking home, there were obviously an awful lot of starlings in a tree, the racket they were making. But it's, do you know, it's opening your eyes to seeing, and it's opening your ears to listening. And it's feeling that chill wind on your skin or the warmth of the sun. It is allowing yourself to hear, to see, and to feel. And to know it is okay to feel whatever those feelings are. But it's also supporting yourself with the feelings you're uncomfortable with to not live there. You don't have to stay with those uncomfortable feelings. But music, there is so much different music shared, and you can look at the different frequencies of music and the energies that they bring. So you could look at those, and I do actually sometimes I will think, actually, just let's go and find some. And you can find loads of them, Hertz music, H-E-R-T said. Anybody wondering what I'm talking about, just go and find them. And they're usually several hours long. You haven't got to play them for that long, but just have them in the background. Or, do you know, are there some songs that really lift you? And allow yourself to sing along with them. Because I'm a great believer in sound energy. A huge believer in sound energy. And that's where I think laughter comes into sound energy. Allow that into your life. Sound, feeling, seeing, listening. But I also appreciate the comment that you were sort of making about wanting somebody just to speak to. But I think a lot of depression comes from feeling unheard, not listened to. And whether people understand or not, it doesn't matter. When we feel heard and really listened to, it helps us to feel that we're important, I suppose, that we're worthy of being listened to and heard. And we're all very good at listening to answer, but not listening to understand. And that is what so many people who find themselves in a downward spiral, they're not feeling heard.
Well, I agree, but at the same time, I do think that depression is, there are many, many, many reasons for depression, and it's not just about not being heard. I mean, and hormones can play quite a big part in that for a lot of people. So it's a tricky one, isn't it? And also the thing about Enolia, when you're saying about talking to somebody, of course it's good to talk to, but you know what? I love to talk to myself. I know this, but I do. If the house is empty, I just go around talking to myself. But it's a way of kind of explaining myself to myself. You know what I mean? Why not?
Sure, absolutely.
It's accepting rather than leaving it inside, because it's anything to get stuff from inside to outside, isn't it?
Yes.
It's important, really.
Yes. And I was sitting here thinking about what Sara Jane was just talking about with the sound healing piece. And, sometimes I go too deep, but I'm going to go there anyway. Which is that I love working with tuning forks. And so when I did my homework on tuning forks, I specifically used Dr. John Berlew's tuning forks. And the backstory on that is just basically that Dr. John Ballou was doing his thesis or his dissertation on the human body, and basically he wanted to see what the impact of sound was on the human body. So he put himself in a chamber, one of those chambers that is completely silent, so that you can't hear, a soundproof chamber, and he was going to do a study in terms of what happened, how the human body reacts when it has no sound. And so, of course, he used himself as a test subject. And to his surprise, when he did this, after being in the chamber for, however number of hours, he heard tones. And he's like, how can this be? How can I hear tones? And the bottom line is, what he discovered was that the human body is of course it's a vibrating being, but it actually vibrates at certain tones. Every one of our organs vibrates at a certain tone. Okay, so when he created his tuning forks, that's why he calls it human tuning, because the tuning forks aren't tuned to just the musical scale, they're actually tuned to the actual different parts of the body. So his C and his G are the overall general health of your body. And let's say your A would be, when played, it'll be the same tone as your liver. And what happens is that when the body actually hears the tone that it's supposed to be vibrating at, if it's off kilter, it actually goes to that tone, which is why tuning forks is so effective. But sound has a definite part in our play, in our realm, in terms of keeping us in balance. And to be away from sound is actually to be depriving yourself. So I wanted to highlight how important that sound healing, sound tuning forks, music that moves your soul is, because the body is nothing but a chord. A chord that needs to stay in balance. And when we're feeling ill, that means that, or when we're feeling depressed, we're out of alignment, we're off key. And we need to come back on key. And sometimes it is as simple as having a tuning fork session, playing your favorite music, going to the 432 or 822 megahertz music, that are specific, not just music, but those actually align. They actually align the body. They have a purposeful and physical impact to the body outside of our regular music that we just favor. And that our body can realign and attune to that music when it's played. And it's all into the sacred geometries of just who we are. So I had to geek out for a second there.
It is fascinating. And does that also, from what Sara Jane was saying about being out in nature and everything, is that going to have the same effect as the tuning forks? Because each sound in nature has a particular frequency, does it not?
I think it does. I think it's all relative, because we were not created to stay indoors. We created indoors because we wanted food and shelter. And then as we progressed and grew, what did we do? We made our indoors more and more elaborate. But the indoors was a place to lay your head for rest, for shelter, just to get out of the weather. It wasn't for us to live in. So yes, we have these beautiful elaborate houses that we can do all different functions in. But again, that's not what we were made for. We were made to be outdoors.
Good point.
So
yeah.
We have another comment. Thank you so much for the interaction. It's brilliant. The body is is a very watery affair. Absolutely. In fact, this is picking up on somewhere I was going. Hence our resonation with sound. Imagine image results for human bodies are percentage water. Up to 60% of the human adult body is water, according to H. Mitchell, Journal of Biological Chemistry. I'm not a brilliant reader. 158. The brain and heart are composed of 73% water, and the lungs are about 83% water. The skin contains 64% water. Muscles and kidneys are 70. Yeah, you talk about you being a geek, Enolia.
What's worse is I can answer him back,
and even
or answer them back, which is
bones are watery. What I was going to say was, I have my glass of water, but is it Emoto, Dr. Emoto?
Yeah, Dr. Masaru Emoto.
Emoto.
Yes,
water.
That's where I was going to go.
I don't know whether you can see that, and it says love.
Mm-hmm.
And so my water sits on love. It can sit on anything. If you need something for health or re-energizing your body or whatever, if you feel there's a homeopathic remedy that could support you, you can do that. You draw. This is how used these things are. You draw a circle around the base of the glass, and then you put the word in it, and then you put your glass on top of it. And the water will take the energy of that. And my glasses of water, my bottle of water by my bed, sits on love. That's what I do. It's part and parcel. The lack of love I had for myself for so many years. And if that is what is helping support me to feel so much better about me and everything around me, and with the sound, which is always going to be with me, but absolutely. So 100%, the water in our body, you do that, the water you put in your body, you are boosting that energy within the water in your body.
And to take your point just a step further, that's the reason why we stay positive. Because as vibratory beings, and like Dr. Masaru Emoto said, is that the words have vibration, so therefore your thoughts have vibration, and they have resonation, okay? And water has memory, okay? And just like you just showed that the memory that your water is getting impacted by that word love at the base of it, our thoughts are impacting the same water within our bodies. And that has an impact on all of our organs. And so that positivity vibrates in the memory of that water, and so does the negativity. Because Dr. Emoto also talked about, if you put the word hate, what it'll do is it'll actually deteriorate the water within 3 days, and you'll see bacteria grow. Mm-hmm. So that person who is negative, that person who doesn't want to think in a positive way, we all break down with disease at a certain point. So yes, you're absolutely right. Our bodies are 70% water overall. And that when we think those positive words, we vibrate those. I'm bringing it right back to the power of positivity. And when we vibrate those words, we actually are helping our organs. We're helping our body, because that water holding the memory is going all throughout us. And it has a significant impact. It has a significant impact.
Yeah. And it's been shown visually, hasn't it? I mean, he's done wonderful films and things which have shown the crystals change in shape. I mean, it's just phenomenal. Strangely, not everybody knows about that. I think it's something everybody should be taught, really, in schools and things.
It's really important to know, because a lot of times it's like, you're just positive. Some people are grumpy, like, you even getting up positive, you're getting on my nerves, kind of thing. But the thing about it is that it does impact us. Absolutely. And our words are significant. Mm. And our attitude is significant around that positivity.
Yeah.
Lots to learn.
No, it's really important that people understand that, because when you're feeling down and somebody's chirpy, think positive, do this, that, and the other. It's like, it can drive you absolutely nuts. But the thing is that person is right. Thinking positive and being positive is such a personal power tool. It's so effective. and all these different strands, all these wonderful things. Something as simple as water, for goodness sake, and a smile. You know, talking. You can, if you're able to express yourself that way. I mean, they're simple things, but they can be so powerful and so effective. And the repetition of these things gathers traction, and I think it's the repetition that's important. So to have the commitment to do it in the first place, and then to be prepared to keep on repeating, doing whatever it is. And if it's becoming boring, changing it, because that's the trouble, isn't it? If you're bored, you bypass it. So you can kind of put a different slant on things, I think, to make them keep going, you know?
Yeah, I'd like to add one more thing to that. Praise yourself, congratulate yourself, even if it is only for getting out of bed in the morning.
Yes.
Doesn't matter how much you achieve in the day. You've done really well today. Well done. I am so proud of you. You don't need anybody else's praise but your own. Be that thoughtful, considerate, caring of yourself. And it doesn't matter if you don't feel you've achieved anything in the day. If you've got yourself out of bed, and that was a real struggle to do, and having come very close to having ME, but I never got diagnosed with it, where you are just so exhausted that getting out of bed is enough to make you need to go and sit down because you haven't got the energy to do anything more. If you just get out of bed, you praise yourself for it. You haven't got to achieve masses in a day.
No.
And I do this for myself every day, regardless of what it is, even if I haven't achieved as much as I'd hoped to. But it's that praising of self.
And some people find that incredibly hard to do.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. It's like saying, I love you. You know, you are the love of my life. I am special. I love me. It's really difficult to do.
I wonder sometimes, though, if it's possible to, if you are finding it really hard to do, if it's possible to lighten it and almost treat it like a joke. So you're looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, God, you're gorgeous. You know, that sort of thing. Because you're still telling yourself, but it's putting a different slant on it. So it's not deep and meaningful, which is where it becomes frightening for some people, doesn't it? So,
yeah. We're coming to the close of our programme. Because we've been going an hour, and I'm sure we could share an awful lot more. But Caroline, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you think you would like to share before we close?
I don't think. Well, there's one. Let me give you a little exercise, which I always love to do this because I think it's one of the things that can help you to stay positive. And to kind of get into that space is to think every day, how can I add value to somebody's day? You know, and what can I, even if I'm feeling really awful, I hope I can add value. So if you, I'll just get rid of this chair. But one thing I love to do is actually to stand up and take in a breath. And as I breathe out, I just think, I give. As I breathe in, I receive, because we have to receive if we're going to give as well. It's a two-way thing. So I give, and the out breath, and I receive. And you can do that 2 or 3 times. The thing about it is, if you imagine that you're looking down on yourself, what shape is this? I give, and I receive. What shape are you making with your hands?
Yeah,
exactly. And it's quite a handy little trick, that, I think, if you're feeling that you want to engage with positivity, you know. Because sometimes when you're feeling rough as well, you just think, well, I'm useless and I can't do anything. But you can send the love, but make sure that you get it back again.
So I think it's excellent. So I have to share this with you, Caroline, is that I'm working with my dear friend, Dr. Linda Tello, on the medicine wheel. And one of the films that she showed me that I learned about is how the actual heart, how it pumps its blood. And I have to just share that it pumps its blood in, out, up, down, in, out, up, down. And so I want you to know that's part of what you're doing. You're sharing the heart flow, the flow of the blood within the body from the heart.
God, that's marvelous. I didn't realize that.
Fascinating thing. So I love, sometimes we, look at working from the heart.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Lovely.
Yes.
Caroline, we are going to be sharing your website under the video, the YouTube. And folks, if you're watching this live, because I know we've got some folks watching live, and if you aren't aware of Caroline's website already, it's already on our web pages. So
yes.
Do go to the website, Gift of Healing TV, the today's conversation there. Enolia, your website. But Caroline, what is your website?
Enolia.live too. I'll have your information there.
Yeah.
With me.
Yes.
Just say your website.
It's www.carolinecarr with 2 R's.com. And please, when you go on there now, don't be too disappointed because there's very little on it. But there will be soon. I exist. I'm not an apparition. So.
I love it.
We've known each other a few years now, Caroline. So,
so beautiful, so beautiful. And is there anything else that you want to say, Sara Jane, before we end?
I think it is. It's just finding that ability within us to love ourselves and everything from the heart. When it comes from our heart for ourselves. And that learning to say yes when it feels right, no when it doesn't. And don't worry about what other people think of you. Because as I realized, they probably aren't. They're too busy worrying about what's going on in their own lives.
Yeah. And Caroline, is there anything you want to finish with?
Just lots of love to everybody in this world that we live in currently. Carry on, have a lovely, peaceful life. Just be, and look to the positive. Look for the positive in any situation. There are so many people all over the world who've lived in terrible, terrible circumstances, and they find something. And I just think we have to make that a mission, really, in order to keep ourselves going. But lots of love to everybody. Kisses and cuddles and all that. Oh,
thank you. I love it. And I would just say, keep smiling. Smile, everyone. Smile in the darkest of the times, smile in the lightest of times. Keep a smile on your face and don't let anyone define or project anything on you. You let them know where you're coming from with that smile. So thank you. It's been another episode of today's conversation, and our next date will be, as I have it here to make sure that I have it correctly, December 10th. And we will be adjusting our time because our guest will be Katie Hollis, who will be talking about My Sovereign Self. And she's out of Australia, so we adjust our times when it's Australia. So it'll be 8 a.m. UK, 9 a.m. Africa, Angola time, and it'll be 6 p.m. for Australia. So special topic, and I really invite you to come in. Katie is a wonderful, wonderful person, actress, and healer. So it'll be great to have Katie on. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Sara Jane. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you, folks. Oh, and Caroline, I forgot to say, when I stop recording, we all get kicked out of the room.
Okay, well, lots of love to you too as well.
Mwah.
Lovely.
It was great.
Right,
Lovely.
thank you so much.
Thank
See you soon.
Right, yeah.
Bye.
Bye.